All right, chat. We're gonna watch a video by WillE. It's the most important video I will make about hardcore classic WoW. It's got to be important. So I have no idea what it's about, but it's the most important video that WillE has ever made about hardcore classic WoW. So.
Not long ago, I did a video talking about how Blizzard may go about implementing hardcore realms into the game officially, and there was a ton of good discussion around it. Today I wanted to do a bit of a follow-up to that video, as whilst the motto surrounding hardcore is death equals delete, I feel that there is a lot more to it which has led this community-driven game mode.
Okay, so for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, I just want to say that my preference is that they just make fresh one life servers. If you die for any reason, your character cannot res, period. End of story. Because if you don't, people will treat that as just fresh servers. Like, you'll have people going to these servers that are not playing hardcore, and they will literally just play it as though it's a fresh server. Also, the griefers that are griefing the hardcore players, the rules would still apply to them. If the griefer dies, which they do die because most of them are mouse clickers, they would die as well. So I think it would curtail that activity as well. But that's just my opinion.
To its current success.
That's right. Iron Man Kekona. The most important video ever.
You might have seen recently during the Hardcore All-Stars tournament the other weekend that they mentioned there's going to be a large announcement on the season finale on May 13th. If this event is kind of new to you, it's essentially speedrunning several dungeons in a row with hardcore characters, or attempting to, that is, without dying. The event is also sponsored in part by Blizzard, and they hope to be joined by Agrend on the day too. Seems as though a pretty good chance to announce the inevitable, right? At this point, it doesn't look like we have long left to wait before we hear about real hardcore servers. All the same, I know how things can go with working on something big. You do loads of work in the background, you finally announce it, it's all ready to go, and then people start giving feedback when it's kind of too late for major changes. Who knows though, maybe whatever the announcement is regarding is still a
I think if they're gonna have fresh servers, I think somebody told me I heard a little rumor. Maybe you guys can confirm this to be true or not. That they had talked to like Cargos and them about hardcore servers and stuff like that. About what kind of rules they would like to see that would be good on fresh hardcore servers. So I'll see. People saying no. See, I don't know that they want to do another season of Mastery, man. The first one bombed so badly. They only having hardcore servers, maybe.
Why?
I mean, let's be honest. Hardcore is way more popular than Season of Mastery, so.
Off, and I like making videos around this topic either way, so I'm still gonna do it. So in my previous video, a lot of what I said is that how the hardcore community has grown the scene so far has, in my opinion, been the best way to do things. But I think Blizzard would struggle to actually implement many of the rules they have set out officially. What I could have done a better job of talking about is the fact that
I don't know that they would have trouble to set out the rules, like the basic rules, like grouping, trading, like dungeons. I don't think that that's hard to not allow a character to enter a second run through the same instance. I don't think that would be hard to implement. Talents don't change professions, all professions. Like, they could just not allow you, take out the auction house, you can't even use it. No trading, death equals delete. You die, your character can't res. You know, like all that sort of stuff. Like no trading, all that sort of stuff. Like, just make it so that you can't do it. Considered against their social approach? I don't know about that. Like, I think Blizzard could definitely make a server that. Man, it's gonna be exciting to see what this announcement actually is, though, right?
They have set out officially. What I could have done a better job of talking about is the fact that hardcore is much more than just your character has one life, and an incredibly important aspect of it is being SSF, or solo self found. This is basically being your own source for anything you want to achieve in the game. If you want to craft a certain profession armor, you need to level the stats. If you want alchemy potions all the time, you more or less have to be alchemy and herbalism. If you want to go to a rare vendor in a dangerous location for a schematic or a pattern, you have to go there instead of just buying it off the auction house. And if you want to get a quest reward that's going to last you for 24 levels, you have to work out how to solo it. So I want to do a mention to another game that's successfully run a game mode that has solo self-found elements for many years now. Old school RuneScape. And even
Never
if you
played
don't know
old school
anything about the
RuneScape.
game, I won't be going super in depth here. It's just for comparison. So over there they have Hardcore Iron Man. These are solo self-found characters that have one life. Iron Man, this is just...
You know what? I didn't actually know that they had this, and now with oh man, her name is escaping me right now. She's like in charge of classic WoW development now. Why can't I remember her name? Anyways, and so it would make sense that maybe they might bring something like this over. Although she came from EverQuest, all right. So
just regular SSF. Ultimate Iron Man, this is SSF with no bank. This is way bigger of a deal in
No
old school
bank.
RuneScape compared to WoW. And more recently, Group Iron Man. This is a team of 2 to 5 SSF players. You can also add on a hardcore restriction. What we have with hardcore WoW at the moment is kind of a mix of all of the above bar Ultimate Iron Man. Though I'm pretty sure there is an achievement for not using a bank. It's just not as big of a deal in WoW. I started old school RuneScape's regular Iron Man mode in the game shortly after it released, and have found it to be a much more interesting progression path long term for my character, as very similar to WoW, I've leveled so many characters through the normal game methods, and have played tons of the endgame to the point where I'm looking for something new, and I felt as though I've done the majority of what the game has to offer. And when you don't play Iron Man on old school RuneScape, the meta for optimal ways to play the game gets considerably narrower. Suddenly you don't have to go and farm a boss for a weapon upgrade, do a quest or hit a level to get an item. Most of the time you just go to their version of the auction house and buy it. And most of the endgame becomes do the highest gold per hour boss, buy upgrades or items you need to level stats, and repeat. Whereas on an Iron Man it will be slower, but you will have a wider variety of ways to level up each skill, where the game doesn't boil down to just farm gold and buy it. And I do appreciate old school RuneScape is a very different game in many ways from WoW, and not everyone here will be totally familiar with it, but regardless of what the optimal way to play the game is, people will eventually follow the path of least resistance and revert back to the meta game. And when people start seeing others doing something which is faster, they will start to feel as though they are wasting their time by opting into doing something which is slower, and suddenly you have people back to boosting, using gold to give new characters bags, enchanted weapons, or just real money trade their way through progression. What makes this game mode interesting and different, be it in RuneScape or WoW, isn't about what you can do, it's about what you can't do, and that's what makes part of hardcore so engaging. Your fresh character is always fresh. Sometimes they get given a bunch of bags in the early levels or a good weapon, and it feels like a blessed character. You make decisions based on your previous experiences, which quests to do and which ones will have a line and you should skip, what zones are super dangerous.
We've already seen me do that, like that Kreenig quest in the Barrens on the warrior that I was playing earlier today. I went there and I was like, no, I'm not. There's 20 people standing around. I just skipped it. And there's also quests that if you have the Rested XP guide, it's got a hardcore mode. You guys can't see it on the screen. It's got a hardcore mode that will automatically skip quests that are like you probably should not be doing them. Excuse me, and we'll have you do other optional quests or something like that instead. Stuff that's maybe a little bit safer. Anyways.
Dangerous, which ones do you like? Places where there are randomly high level mobs, or escorts where they spawn half a dozen mobs to catch you off guard. And you know everyone around you has had the same experience. You choose professions based off of what you want in the long run, and you are, well, self-sufficient, basically. Hardcore started off with the idea of death equals delete, but over time has evolved massively. Unofficial servers have, strangely enough, done the scene a huge favour. As there's currently no way to know who or who isn't a hardcore character, rules have been made to try and keep players honest in their pursuit to level 60. Rules such as no trading, auction house, mailbox, grouping, and so on. And it's under this rule set on unofficial servers that hardcore has grown to the size it's at now. This format works. And as somebody who does a YouTube, when you find a format that works, you don't go changing it. Though hardcore has made some concessions because WoW as a base game was not designed around the idea that people would want to play it this way. Under the current hardcore rule set, you can run each dungeon once on your journey from 1 to 60. This aims to stop excessive dungeon farming for XP and items and keeps players in the open world. There was a comment on the previous video saying, how about dungeons are treated more like raids with a 7-day lockout? And I thought that was interesting. Maybe you could even go down the ZG route and have a 3-day lockout instead. This is something which Blizzard could perhaps be able to do, whereas restricting each player to...
I still like the idea of just doing it once. It's a little bit more, I don't know, we're playing a fantasy game here, but it's a little bit more realistic that once you've killed the boss, like there's no reason why you would go back, right? Like imagine when you were playing like Dungeons and Dragons, like pen and paper, like AD&D or something like that, and there's some I don't know, dragon or something you've got to kill. You don't kill it and then wait, and then you're like, oh wait, hold on, let's reset and kill it again. It just doesn't. It honestly doesn't make sense that you would actually even be able to go back and try to kill the boss again.
To one dungeon per
I like that they don't let you do it a second time.
Also, very understandably, people want to play as a group in an MMO, as per this comment here, which I completely understand. I just think you need to choose whether you want to be a group player or a solo player, instead of having the freedom to be whatever you want at any point. I'm not sure that entirely fits into the hardcore game mode. But
yeah, if you want an easier hardcore mode experience, run as a group of 2 or 3. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, run solo.
Just mentioned, old school RuneScape has recently done Group Ironman. So what have they done over there? Well, they have...
Can we run as a group of 5?
Have groups of 2 to 5 players, an optional hardcore toggle where each player contributes 1 life to the group, shared storage or bank, and free trading between members of the group. There are other rules in place regarding joining, leaving, prestige, and so on, but those are the basics. What if in hardcore there was a new NPC where you register for a guild, where instead you can register for a hardcore group, a group that shares a...
No, I was just thinking of something.
Quest drops perhaps, so you don't end up spending an entire evening on poor drop rate quests and just congesting the area in general, and a group that can set up their own profession ecosystem. Everyone loots cloth, the tailor makes green items, enchanter disenchants them, and then enchants other people.
The only time where I think maybe grouping out, like if you're a solo player, would be to kill those quests like the Kreenig quest or whatever, just so that you can actually get the quest done. Otherwise you've got like there was one day when I was doing my when I started my first warlock, and I went to where Kreenig was, and there was, I'm not kidding you, there was like 40 people standing there all waiting to try and tag. Like you'll never get it done. That's the only time. But then like how do you allow people to group for just those quests and not everything else, right? So I just prefer that they keep it so that if you're a solo player, you're just solo leveling. I've had no problem doing it. Like I just skip past the Kreenig quest. It doesn't matter because there's no follow-up quest anyways, so
people's gear, makes wands, and that kind of stuff. Under the hardcore rules at the moment, groups currently have to play at the same time, and anyone dying...
We were talking about this in my guild, because a bunch of us were talking about actually starting hardcore players and leveling up as our own guild, basically, like hardcore tyrants or whatever, just for something to do when we're raid logging, because everyone wants to do something together, but there's nothing to do in Wrath, and a lot of people in the guild are actually doing hardcore, but the hold on,
and that kind of stuff. Under the hardcore rules at the moment, groups currently have to play at the same time.
But anyways, that was what we were talking about, is that if you want to play as a group of 2 or 3, you're always having to try and get the same people on at the same time, and it's really, a lot of people don't always play at the same time, or you might only be able to play for like 2 or 3 hours together, right? So I think your leveling is actually going to be a lot slower. Hey, Burjeet.
Time, and anyone dying means the whole team has to delete. But if you're in a group where a death can cost you a life, even if you play 2 times more than someone else, are you going to...
Could you? There was a clip that we watched like a week ago, in the death clips that we watched. There was a guy who died. Um, there was a guy who died to the elevator, and he was running in a group of trios, and they all had to delete their characters. Like, could you imagine? He died to the elevator in Undercity, and all three of them had to delete their characters because one of them died. It's so stupid.
Going to take them into a later game zone, into a dungeon, or to try and heal you on a quest where they can easily get picked off if something goes wrong. These are just two examples of how Hardcore has tried to make the game different from what it usually is though. Another point I see being brought up is trading within 5 levels of whatever your character is at. This is so there is at least some economic.
I don't want any trading in the game at all because then it makes it too easy. I use the example all the time. You could have a cloth wearer who is looking for cloth, but he's got a bunch of mail items in his bag or whatever. And there's I don't know, there's a shaman or something like that that's got he wants the mail gear, and they just trade, and it just makes the leveling experience so much easier because they're able to make trades and get all this cloth gear or get all this gear that they actually need. So I don't like the idea of being able to trade at all until you hit to level 60. Then once you get to level 60, different story. But the leveling up process, if you're leveling up solo, I don't think you should be able to do trades.
Economic activity in the game going on.
I don't like trading.
Full-blown level 60s giving level 1
if you're in a group of like a trio or whatever, like a group of 3 people or whatever, and you're leveling up, I don't know that I have a problem with people that are in the same group trading with each other. But if you're just trading with some dude that's shouting in trade chat in Orgrimmar or something like that, I don't want that.
Case. It could be interesting though. You could trade down where a 60 trades to a 55, a 55 to a 50, and so on and so forth. You might need additional limitations such as items becoming soulbound after being traded. You know what you should expect for sure though? Players on Blizzard servers doing literally the most degen things possible to gain any advantage. There's something different between opting into playing this game mode when it's community driven and for fun, and when Blizzard is offering it as an official service and people start acting like the naughty kid in the back of the classroom who gets everyone's privileges taken away because they just can't behave themselves. If there's one thing I've learned since covering Classics since its release, it's that you never doubt players' abilities to exploit something. Here's an excerpt from Soren Johnson's game design notes on Civilization. He says a phrase we used on the Civilization development team to describe
water finds a crack.
Is that water finds a crack, meaning that any hole a player can possibly find in the game's design will be inevitably abused over and over. The greatest danger is that once players discover such an exploit, they will be unable to play the game again without using it. The knowledge cannot be ignored or forgotten, even if the player wishes otherwise. In short, what this means for Hardcore is, if you give people a game where it's possible to boost, they will boost. If you give people a game where they can trade and group freely, they will overpower the content. And if you give people a game where gold is king, there will be bots and people will real money trade. All of these are currently being mitigated by the Hardcore rules.
Yeah, so I personally wouldn't have a problem with them actually getting rid of the auction house as well. Get rid of the auction house, get rid of trading, and make it so that death means that you delete your character or it cannot be rezzed. And then that way it gets rid of bots. Like, how many bots are actually going to be able to make it to level 60 without dying? You don't have the gold trading because it's not being done through, like, the auction house, through regular trade, through mail, through all this other stuff. So I don't know. The more and more I think about it, the more and more I like this version of the game type of thing. But I do really hope that they bring in one life servers, though.
And whilst tactics such as these are made more difficult by having a one-life character, having one life does not prevent any of them from happening. It is the solo self-found aspect of Hardcore that does. And that's why for me, Hardcore is way much more than just having a one-life character. As mentioned earlier, the Hardcore scene has grown to where it is now under these rules. It's proven to be a format that has seen exponential growth with no signs of hitting the brakes anytime soon. I'm hopeful that what's made Hardcore to be where it's at the moment is something that we can find on Blizzard's official servers, but I guess the announcement on May 13th will tell us soon enough either way. But that's just what I think, both as a classic WoW enjoyer.
Does anyone have a time? It's going to be on Sarth's stream, right? It's during Sarth's stream that this announcement's going to be made? I think so.
And someone who spent many hours playing a solo self-found game mode on another MMO. What do you reckon? Is a One Life character enough for you to be happy, or are you looking for more of a continuation of what has made hardcore reach the point it's at the moment? Let me know below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all on the next one very soon.
Okay, so another great video by WillE, obviously. I don't know. We'll have to wait to see what their announcement officially is, because I don't think anyone really knows unless they discussed it with Sarth and them beforehand, or Cargos and them. Maybe they have an idea as to what's going on. But I really hope that if Blizzard is coming out with fresh servers, it's One Life servers. It has to be, because if you don't make it that it's One Life, then people are just gonna like bombard it and play it as though it's just classic fresh. And you're gonna have all the classic fresh people, which I am, bombarding it as well and playing it as though it's just a regular server. So I think the idea of having a hardcore server separate from a classic fresh server would be kind of neat to see, because then you know everyone's on the server, and it would curtail bots, because bots die all the time. And also griefers. Griefers are constantly, they're constantly out there trying to kill people, which I personally am fine with, because that's just always been part of the game. But I would love it if they had to suffer the same consequences as the regular player base as well. In fact, a lot of them wouldn't. If you've watched any of their videos, like, they're literally clicking on all of their abilities. So, it looks amazing. Each character have a conversation using about their histories, and I have not seen anything about that. I don't really follow Skyrim or anything like that, but so no, I have not seen that. But anyways, hopefully we'll have to see what the announcement is, but hopefully Blizzard does a good job of whatever it is they plan on doing. It could be something as small as just bringing hardcore, like a hardcore mode, to current classic servers. And I think that would be a little bit disappointing for the hardcore community. It could be something as much as they're actually bringing fresh hardcore servers, in which case you would have to ask the people that are already level 60 or approaching level 60, or they're geared and ready to roll through Molten Core, are they gonna just start over immediately? Because I know I would. My Warlock, what level am I? 34? 34. I would immediately start over and just play on these hardcore servers, the One Life server. It sounds like it would be a lot of fun. That's assuming that they don't have classic fresh servers. So anyways, we're gonna leave it there with that video from WillE. I don't really have any other videos for you guys to watch today, so but that one was a good one. We'll obviously give WillE a thumbs up. For those of you watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe to WillE's channel if you haven't already. And if you liked my commentary, feel free to like my video, subscribe to my channel too if you want. And all the links are down below for WillE, and you can also come join me on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Alodar. Stream 5-6 days a week. So thanks a lot. We'll talk to you guys again in the next one.